So fellas, this weekend is UFC 315, and listen, I don't care how hardcore of a fan you are, this is definitely one of the weaker pay-per-views we've had this year. Looking forward to the main event, but the card from top to bottom definitely isn't one of the best pay-per-views we've had this year, but we are going to be predicting every fight on this card, as well as a breakdown, and we'll go in there with the first fight, which is Katona versus Bekzat Almakhan. Now, if you don't know who Bekzat Almakhan is, he debuted in the UFC against Umar Nurmagomedov. Tough fight to debut against, and he actually dropped Umar in the first round, then got dominated for the rest of the fight, and I'm actually going to be picking Bekzat Almakhan to win this fight by TKO in the very first round. I think he finishes Katona. You look at his record, he's got a very high finishing rate, only one decision in his entire career, and you look at him on the regional scene, very snappy striker, high pace, always in your face, really good at kickboxing, and Katona has this bad habit of always getting into dogfights. He stands and trades, he gets into these scraps when he doesn't really need to. He's got a good wrestling background that he never uses, so I think we're going to see Bekzat Almakhan capitalize on this, clip him in the very first round, and I think he TKO'd Katona early, and probably because Katona from the UFC, which is not going to be a good start to Canada, but I've been waiting for Bekzat Almakhan to come back to the UFC since his loss to Nurmagomedov. He's been out for like, how long is it since that Umar fight? Like 12, 13 months now, so he's been out for quite some time, but that was on short notice against Umar. I think he's going to come back, and I reckon he clips Katona in the very first round, knocks him out cold. Maybe not out cold, gets a TKO, but I'm going to go with Bekzat Almakhan to win this one by TKO in the first. Now, the keys to victory for both of these guys. For Katona, it's not to brawl because you're going to get chinned. Use your pressure boxing, which you have, to close the distance and shoot takedowns. If Katona's smart, the game plan should be to take the fight to the mat. And I'm not saying that just because, you know, Bekzat got taken down by Umar, because it's Umar at the end of the day, but that would be the best game plan for Katona. And make it boring, cage holding, whatever to implement the grappling. You don't want to be standing up with Bekzat Almakhan, because I think Katona's massively disadvantaged in that area. And then for Bekzat Almakhan, it's pretty simple. Capitalize on Katona's scrappy style by clipping him, piece him up at kickboxing range, but prepare for takedowns and shots up top when he tries faking the striking with the takedown. But I think we will see Bekzat Almakhan go out there and showcase his striking. I think we might see a bit of a war for about a minute until eventually we see Bekzat Almakhan clip Katona and knock him out. And then we've got another kind of short notice fight. We've got Daniel Santos taking on Jeung Lee. Yeah, I'm going to be with the underdog. I'm pretty sure it's the underdog anyway, with Jeung Lee to win this one by decision. Daniel Santos is just a typical shoot-a box type of fighter, basically like a mini Charles Oliveira. Likes using his heavyweight tie, knees in the clinch, likes to implement his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when necessary. He's just a shoot-a box minion, if you will. And even though Jeung Lee kind of likes to get in a scrap, I think the wrestling is going to be what wins in this fight. I'm a big fan of Jeung Lee's wrestling. He showed it in that fight where he was getting out grappled. I forgot who it was against, but he was getting out grappled, and he makes a massive comeback and out grapples his opponent. And he has got a decent level of wrestling. It really just depends on if Jeung Lee shoots a takedown or not. Similar to the Katona fight, are we going to see Jeung Lee go out there and have a war? Because we've seen him have wars before, like the one with Hyder and he got clipped. But I think if he uses his fight IQ, comes back and gets a good win over Daniel Santos, and the fact that he's on short notice and Daniel Santos is stepping up on only a few weeks notice, I'm going to go with Jeung Lee to win this one. Did get clipped by Hyder but Hyder undefeated, great striker. I think if he uses his wrestling in this fight, takes down Daniel Santos, implements the grappling, he could probably pick up a decision win in this fight. Keys to victory for Daniel Santos, it's to walk forward with a Muay Thai heavy approach like all the shoot-a box fighters do, and what's worked for him so far. Stay busy in the clinch. When you do clinch, when he's trying to take you down, knees to the clinch, staying busy with the striking in the clinch, and threaten submissions during grappling exchanges. He has got a pretty good jiu-jitsu base and submission base as Daniel Santos, so it would be smart for him to threaten the submissions during these grappling exchanges. And for Jeung Lee, the keys to victory would be to not stand and trade with the risk of getting chinned. You tried it against Hyder, you got chinned. You don't want to be knocked out twice in a row, so play this one safe. Take him down and pressure strike to set up the takedowns, but do prepare for his BJJ. Don't just shoot takedowns all guns blazing with no care in the world. Prepare for his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I think a wrestling approach across 50 minutes would be the key to victory for Jeung Lee. Then we've got none other than Marc Barriault. I don't know how the hell this guy's still in the UFC. And I don't know how the hell Bruno Silva's still in the UFC as well. These guys have a combined 7-fight losing streak, which is just peak Canada card. You know, the UFC never like to treat Canada. So this is what we're getting given. Marc Barriault versus Bruno Silva. Loser undoubtedly gets cut from the UFC. I'm going to go with Marc Barriault to win this one by decision, purely because Bruno Silva, I don't think he wants to fight anymore. He looked awful in his most recent fight against Nordiev. I know you can kind of make the excuses he's been getting fed killers, killers. Nordiev is not a killer. He's a very average fighter. And it isn't even like he got outclassed and he got dominated. He just genuinely didn't want to fight. He was on the back foot the entire fight. Kind of let Nordiev shoot takedowns, and that was it. I know Marc-Andre Barriault is a very chinny guy. He's got one of the worst chins in the middleweight division, but to be fair to him, he's been facing pretty powerful guys. You know, Joe Pyfer apparently hits harder than Francis Ngannou. Dustin Stoltzfus is another dangerous guy, so I kind of sympathize with Marc-Andre Barriault in that sense. I think we're going to see Marc-Andre Barriault walk forward Bruno Silva, simply because Bruno Silva's going to let him. He had no urgency in that fight with Nordiev. He's on a 4-fight losing streak. He lost to Chris Weidman as well, so I think Marc-Andre Barriault uses his pressure, outlands Bruno Silva in this fight, and gets the win. Bruno Silva's biggest career highlight is going to a decision with Alex Pereira a couple of years ago, and since then there's been a lot of people, you know, kind of being blinded by that and thinking that Bruno Silva's a good fighter. He's not UFC worthy. He should have been cut after that fight with Nordiev. I have no reason why they've kept him in the organization. I assume it's just to build the name of Marc-Andre Barriault in Canada, so I'm going to be going with Marc-Andre Barriault to win this one by decision. Now, the keys to victory for Marc-Andre Barriault, it's to pressure Silva and just pick him apart, treat him like a punching bag, because he's going to let you know, just pick him apart. Marc-Andre Barriault does his best when he's pressuring his opponent, so I think that would be the game plan for Marc-Andre Barriault. Don't get too comfortable and let him land a big one. You've just been chinned twice in a row. Your chin's probably not in the best state. Don't let Bruno Silva land a big one and chin you at some point in the fight after you get too comfortable. And for Bruno Silva, the keys to victory would be to step one, choose to win. Do you want to win? Are you just doing it for a paycheck? Because if you want to win, that's step one. That's the first part. Step two, keep it at kickboxing range and pick him to bits. I do believe that Bruno Silva is a bit of kickboxing than Marc-Andre Barriault. I'll say that first. I just think the fight IQ and the will to win is what lets him down, and feint the takedowns if needed. We saw Bruno Silva shoot a couple of takedowns on Sharon Magomedov and it worked, so maybe that could be a game plan against Marc-Andre Barriault to kind of feint the takedowns to make the striking more effective. But I think it really depends on if Bruno Silva wants to win. But the fact that he's on a 4-fight skid and looked horrible in his last fight, I'm going to be going with Marc-Andre Barriault. And then we have Navajo Sterling versus Ivan Erslan. I'm going to go Navajo Sterling by decision to win this one. Ivan Erslan debuted in the UFC. I actually picked him to beat Ian Cutelaba, but he looked horrible in that fight. Ian Cutelaba looked like a top 15 contender in that fight. As he just completely beat Ivan Erslan in the majority of the fight. There was a couple of times when Erslan landed a few takedowns here and there, but he was just kind of domination from Ian Cutelaba. And Navajo Sterling is this kickboxing prospect, comes from a kickboxing background, trains out of City Kickboxing with the likes of Visual Adesanya, and he had a pretty decent debut in the UFC, destroyed Tuco Tacos, probably could have got a finish in that fight if it had been a bit more risky, but he looked good in that fight with his kickboxing, so I think he gets this one done by decision. Ivan Erslan has not impressed me so far in the UFC. He had a bit of an up and down record on the regional scene as well. There'll be sometimes where he'd win a fight by KO and then he'd get chinned in another, so I think it's going to be a stand-up fight where we see Navajo Sterling pick apart Ivan Erslan across 15 minutes. Occasionally we are going to see Ivan Erslan shoot a takedown and try to take the fight to the mat, but I don't think he's going to have too much success. I think Navajo Sterling picks him apart across 15 minutes, defends the takedowns, and gets a win by decision. Now, the keys to victory for Navajo Sterling, it is to outstrike him and outclass him across 3 rounds. Don't force a finish and engage in a brawl to try and get your first finish in the UFC, because you've got risk of getting knocked out by Ivan Erslan, who's got a, you know, pretty powerful punch. And don't engage in a brawl or a dogfight. Just keep it a pretty kickboxing fight across 3 rounds where you get a decision winner. For Ivan Erslan, it's to force him into a brawl. Look to land on the chin. You're not going to outpoint and outstrike Navajo Sterling, so your best chance is making it brawly. Look to land on the chin and implement the takedowns. It worked occasionally against Ian Cutelaba, so maybe shooting the takedowns, trying to take the fight to the mat, because at the end of the day, Navajo Sterling has only had 6 MMA fights. Ivan Erslan's had 18. You've got the experience. Mix it up with the grappling. That's your best key to victory. Then we have actually quite a decent fight in the women's, what is it, flyweight, bantamweight division? I think it's the bantamweight, no, is it? Yeah, bantamweight division. Jessica Andrade versus Jasmine Jasudavicious. I'm going to go with Canada's Jasmine Jasudavicious to win this one. It seems like Canada, when it comes to Canadian fighters, the women actually do it best, with Jillian Robertson last week and obviously Jasmine Jasudavicious this week. I'm going to be going with Jasmine Jasudavicious to win this one. She's a really good grappler. I don't know how the hell she lost to Tracy Cortez, but she's a really good grappler. She's been in an absolute role, just dominated Mara Bueno Silva, and she's massively impressed me with her wrestling. She's got good submission game, good wrestling game. She impressed me in that fight with Fatima Klan as well. Fatima Klan's like a BJJ phenom, and she beat her comfortably with the grappling in that fight too. And Jessica Andrade, I get it, she's pretty dangerous and she's a high-level fighter, but she's just too inconsistent for my liking. She's kind of just a bit of a win-loss fighter, and I think somebody like Jasmine Jasudavicious is going to be able to take her down, probably control her across 15 minutes and get the win. So as tough as Jessica Andrade is, and she could definitely get this win. I mean, we saw what she did when she faced Mackenzie Dern a few years ago, just beat the crap out of her. I think Jasudavicious gets this one done, wins a decision win, gets gets a decision win, out-grapples her across 15 minutes, and yeah, I'm going to go Jasmine Jasudavicious to win this one. She's a bit of a prospect right now in this division, in the bantamweight division. I still don't understand how you lose to Tracy Cortez of all people, but she's been on a roll. She's been very active, especially compared to Jessica Andrade. And simply Andrade just isn't active enough, in my opinion, for me to want to pick her to win against Jasmine Jasudavicious, and she's just not consistent enough. So keys to victory for Jessica Andrade, it's to keep the fight standing and rough her up, just like you did against Mackenzie Dern. Keep the fight standing, rough her up, catch her when she's coming in. Jessica Andrade is quite a good counter puncher, whereas she's facing a fighter who has a high pressure style. She does a good job at kind of clipping fighters coming in. And although it is easier said than done, avoid being on your back as much as possible, because if you're on your back against Jasmine Jasudavicious, she's going to work you with ground and pound, get you in some sort of submission, find you in crucifix. It's not a place that you want to be. For Jasmine Jasudavicious, take her down. Pretty simple game plan. Don't brawl with her and be cautious on the feet, because Jessica Andrade does hit pretty hard. And constant feints to set the takedowns up. That would be the game plan for Jasudavicious, but I'm going to pick her to win this one. I think she gets this one done. Then we've got a decent fight. I'd say probably a fight between the two best unranked guys in the light heavyweight division, maybe apart from Umar Sy. Modestas Bukauskas taking on Ian Cutelaba. Both of these guys recently won at UFC Seattle. It is a close fight, but I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas to win this one. I think he finishes Ian Cutelaba in the first round. I know that Ian Cutelaba looked really good at UFC Seattle. He got that submission win on Erslan, and he's on a 2-fight winning streak. And Modestas Bukauskas, I just don't understand. I just don't know how trustworthy he is to pick Ian Cutelaba. Modestas Bukauskas has looked really good in his last two. Finished Sakura, looked decent against Marcin Prachnio as well. I think he's a lot more well-rounded than Ian Cutelaba. He's also training with the likes of Tom Aspinall, the Aspinall gym, and since that loss to Vito Petrino, and since transitioning to that camp with Tom Aspinall, he's looked really good as Modestas Bukauskas. Looks top 15 worthy, looks well-rounded. I think he'd smoke Alonzo Menifield if he was to get that fight in the top 15. So I think it's going to be a bit of a brawl in the first round, where Ian Cutelaba kind of brings the fight to Modestas Bukauskas, pressures him, tries scrapping with him like he does in every fight. But I think Modestas Bukauskas is a little bit too dangerous for Ian Cutelaba. I reckon he clips him coming in, catches him coming in. It's also the chin of Ian Cutelaba is quite controversial as well, so I think Modestas Bukauskas gets this one done. It is a very close fight. I can see a world where Ian Cutelaba kind of overwhelms Modestas Bukauskas, pressures him and gets him in too much of a dogfight that he can't really handle, but I think Modestas Bukauskas TKOs him in the first round, clips Ian Cutelaba coming in, and TKOs him in the very first round. And even if it isn't in the first round, if anybody's going to win later on in the fight, it is going to be Modestas Bukauskas because of the suspect cardio of Ian Cutelaba. So keys to victory for Modestas Bukauskas, it is be prepared for a brawl. That's what you're going to get when you face Ian Cutelaba. Keep the fight standing, pick your shots carefully, and watch out for the takedowns, because I do think that Ian Cutelaba is going to try and mix up the takedowns in this fight. And then for Ian Cutelaba, force him into a dogfight, but do be cautious. Don't want to go in there all guns blazing and get chinned. Grappling heavy approach, that's your best chance, because you've got a better chance of out grappling Modestas than you do without striking him. And just don't make your stamina up all in the first round. Like I said, force him into a dogfight, but don't just swing for the fences the entire time, because we've seen Ian Cutelaba with suspect cardio before. What's to take can't happen again. That would be the keys to victory for both of those guys. Then we've got a failed Canadian prospect in Mike Malott as he takes on Charles Radtke. Quite an even fight again. Mike Malott used to be a massive prospect, dangerous guy on the feet, dangerous guy on the ground, was an up-and-coming dude in the welterweight division. He's going to be taking on Charles Radtke. Again, quite a dangerous dude on the feet. Good use of takedowns. Pretty good striker as Charles Radtke. They're fairly evenly matched, but I'm going to be going with the underdog in this fight. I'm going to go with Charles Radtke to win this one by TKO in the third round. Mike Malott has looked horrible since that fight with Neil Magny. He obviously got finished by Neil Magny due to his massive lack of stamina. And then after that, he goes and fights Trevin Giles. And he looked horrible in that fight with Trevin Giles too. Across 15 minutes, he did pretty much nothing. And that's against a lower level fighter in Trevin Giles. And I know that we've seen Charles Radtke get finished, but he got finished by what's his name? Carlos Prates, the fighting prospect at the time. And then in his most recent fight, he absolutely obliterated Matthew Semmelsberger and smoked him in the very first round. Based off what I've seen in the last couple of fights, I'm going to be going with Charles Radtke to win this one. I think he's a better striker. I think he's got better stamina. The only way I see Mike Malott winning this fight is if he gets a lucky shot on Charles Radtke, or is able to take him down and submit him, which I just don't think he's going to be able to do so. I'm going to be going with Charles Radtke to get this one done. I can see Mike Malott winning the first couple of rounds, but we've seen him have terrible stamina before. I reckon he's going to gas in the third round, where we're going to see Charles Radtke put on a bit of pressure on Mike Malott and get the finish in the third round. And on top of that as well, I'm pretty sure Charles Radtke's training with Bilal Muhammad as well, so you know he's coming in with a pretty good camp. So I'm going to go Charles Radtke to beat the Canadian prospect in Mike Malott by TKO in the 3rd round. Finishes him with body shots, finishes him against the cage. I'm going to see Mike Malott crumble once again. Keys to victory for both of these guys. For Mike Malott, it is to preserve your stamina. Don't gas out. We've seen it happen before. Don't let yourself gas out again. Outpoint him. You don't need to go out there and bum rush him and finish him. Who cares about the Canadian fans? Outpoint him. And do mix up the grappling to keep him guessing. Mike Malott has got pretty good grappling. His submission game is pretty good as well. We saw him competing that grappling tournament at Fury Pro Grappling. So do mix up the grappling. And for Charles Radtke, it's to take the fight into later rounds where Mike Malott will struggle with his gas tank, because that's where you've got your best chance of beating Mike Malott. That's where Neil Magny beat him. Pressure him and don't get backed up against the cage where he has the chance to, just tee off on you and obviously shoot takedowns. Then we've got Benoit St. Denis now taking on Kyle Prepolec. Now, it wasn't Benoit St. Denis against Mateusz Gamrot or Mateusz Rebecki, who we were expecting to step in for Yoel Alvarez. We're now getting a GFL fighter, Kyle Prepolec, who's 0-2 in the UFC. Is this really the best fighter that the UFC could have found? Like, I get it, he's Canadian, but they've probably just found this dude on the street and given him a UFC contract. Why could we have Mateusz Rebecki or Mateusz Gamrot or even like a Mauricio Hufe? You know who I'm going to pick. I'm going Benoit St. Denis to win this one by TKO in the 1st round. Kyle Prepolec, he's a regional fighter for a reason. He's not on the UFC for a reason. He shouldn't be here. He's only in this stage because he's Canadian. Benoit St. Denis is going to go back to vintage Marauder Benoit St. Denis. I think he beats him however he wants. I think he gets the TKO in the very 1st round, clips him on the feet, backs up Kyle Prepolec, and I think he finishes this fight early, backs him up against the cage, gets the TKO in the very 1st round against Kyle Prepolec. We're going to see vintage Benoit St. Denis, and I think this is kind of needed for Benoit St. Denis. How is his confidence going to look after being on a 2-fight losing streak to Poirier and Moicano? And I wasn't favouring him. If he was going to go in that fight with Yoel Alvarez, I was going to favour Yoel Alvarez in this fight, so I think a complete bum, a complete dude off the regional scene who's been brought in just to give Benoit St. Denis a free win from Canada is the best case scenario for Benoit St. Denis' career. So in that sense, it's a good fight, but yeah, it's not competitive. Kyle Prepolec's going to get smoked. Benoit St. Denis is going to get back in the winning column after this fight, but I hope he doesn't get like another top 10 fighter just to beat fucking Kyle Prepolec. I hope they either reschedule him against Yoel Alvarez or they book him against like a, I don't know, somebody else in the, like Ferez, for example, France on France violent. I'm not sure what they do, but it's going to be Benoit St. Denis, TKO in the 1st round. Keys to victory for Benoit St. Denis, I mean, just do whatever you want. Walk him down and rough room, but don't waste your time. Get rid of him immediately. I'm sick of these fighters in the UFC who have been giving cans on short notice, regional fighters on short notice, and they're giving them too much respect. You're Benoit St. fucking Denis. You're fighting Kyle Prepolec 0-2, who's been, just looking horrible on the regional scene. Walk him down and finish him. Do a Peyton Talbot versus Yanis Gamori on him. Get the fight done early. And for Kyle Prepolec, I mean, just pray, bro. Just pray. Do your best. You're not going to beat Benoit St. Denis, and if you do, it's an opportunity of a lifetime. See it as that, it's your biggest opportunity you're ever going to have, but just do your best. But I'm definitely going to go with Benoit St. Denis to win this one. Then we've got actually quite an interesting matchup in the women's flyweight division. Alexa Grasso taking on Natalia Silva, who's been an absolute roll. I'm actually going to go with Natalia Silva to win this one by decision. This is probably the most 50-50 fight on the entire card. If you don't know Natalia Silva, she's got really good striking. She's got one of the best kickboxers in the women's flyweight division, up there with the likes of Shevchenko. She's got really nice taekwondo. She completely picks people apart. She's been in this massive role. And I think she's going to do really well in this fight against Alexa Grasso and pose some massive striking problems. Now, Alexa Grasso, don't get me wrong, she's got some good striking. I mean, she was able to drop Shevchenko in the second fight. We know she's got good boxing. But I think Natalia Silva gets this one done. The only way I see Natalia Silva losing is if you give her a really good grappler like an Erin Blanchfield or a Valentina Shevchenko. And even though Grasso's got the BJJ, I don't think she gets this one done. I'm going Natalia Silva to win a decision. It's going to be a striking matchup in my opinion. Alexa Grasso's going to pressure box, maybe try and implement the grappling. Natalia Silva's going to keep it at range, and I think Natalia Silva's going to style on Alexa Grasso and probably earn herself a title fight after this one. Natalia Silva's been going massively under the radar in the women's flyweight division. This is her coming out party. This is her chance to showcase her skills on pay-per-view. I'm going to go in with Natalia Silva by decision to get this one done over Alexa Grasso. The keys to victory for Alexa Grasso is going to be to pressure her with boxing. You don't want to be at kickboxing or taekwondo range with Natalia Silva. Pretty self-explanatory. You're going to get picked apart, and constantly mixed up with the grappling, give her something to think about. We know that Alexa Grasso's got great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Even though she might not be a massive wrestler in this division, that's definitely your best course of action when you're facing Natalia Silva, who hasn't really had to deal with any crazy wrestlers so far. So mix the striking up with the grappling, and if you are going to strike, pressure box. And for Natalia Silva, pretty simple game plan. Piece her up with the taekwondo like you do to everybody, and I do believe that Natalia Silva's the better striker, and keep her at range and just beat her with output. Go to the points decision, go 15 minutes, and just pick apart Alexa Grasso on the feet. Don't play, don't engage in a brawl, don't engage in a stupid fight, don't try grapple with Alexa Grasso. Pick her apart with kickboxing and taekwondo. That's your best opportunity. Then we've got the legend, Jose Aldo, taking on Aiemann Zahabi. Apparently, Aiemann Zahabi is only 1 year younger than Jose Aldo, so I guess we can't really claim this as like being this up-and-coming guy, but, he's definitely, I guess, the oldest prospect in the UFC. He's on a bit of a roll now with Aiemann Zahabi as he takes on Jose Aldo. We've got the veteran, the legend in Aldo coming back against Zahabi, who's been in a bit of a roll. And I don't know what the UFC have against Aldo, but we've been seeing him against nothing but prospects and up-and-coming guys, like we did against Jonathan Martinez, like we did against Mario Batista, and like we are again against Aiemann Zahabi. But I'm going to go with the legend Aldo. You can't pick against Aldo. Jose Aldo's going to win this one by decision. And I'm not just saying that because it's Aldo and I want to be respectful. I do genuinely think he's going to win this fight. You look at Aldo's run since he's come back to the UFC. He faces Jonathan Martinez, and he absolutely bullied Jonathan Martinez. He was picking him apart with the boxing. I'd argue his boxing looked better after the return than it did before. His wrestling looked sharp in that fight too, was taking down Jonathan Martinez at every opportunity, and was just overall picking him apart, styling on Jonathan Martinez while Martinez was on a roll. Looked really good in that fight, and even in his fight with Mario Batista where he lost, that was a very controversial decision where Mario Batista's only chance of beating Aldo was by holding him against the cage, and every other exchange, Aldo was winning. You look at it before that, he was 1-3 in his last 4 fights. That one loss was to Marab, but apart from that, he beat 3 top contenders. And Aiemann Zahabi, you look at his past couple of fights, he went to a very close decision with Javid Basharat, and Basharat's last couple of performances haven't really been holding up, and he beat Pedro Munoz as well, but how good is a win over Pedro Munoz really, in 2024? So I'm going to go with Aldo to win this one by decision. I mean, I think he's the better striker. I think he's definitely got the better fight IQ. His longevity compared to a lot of the rest of the fighters is amazing. I think he just walks down Aiemann Zahabi and just kind of a similar game plan to what he did against Jonathan Martinez. Picks him up with a boxing heavy approach, rips to the body, and it's going to work Aiemann Zahabi, who isn't this young, hungry prospect like I thought he was. The dude's 37 years old. He has been on a roll. He's got a good team around him. He has looked really good in his last few fights, but we're talking about Jose Aldo, who should be fighting the top 10, top 5 of this division, not the fucking Aiemann Zahabi. So I'm going to go Aldo to win this one by decision. Way too much experience, way too much fight IQ, and just overall a better fighter. Now, the keys to victory for none other than Jose Aldo is going to be to pressure box him, get inside. We saw Aldo come back with a really good boxing style after he took that layoff from the UFC, and he absolutely ripped to the body of Jonathan Martinez. We need to see that against Aiemann Zahabi. Leg kicks, goes without saying, Jose Aldo's historically one of the best leg kickers in UFC history, so implement those leg kicks and mix it up with the grappling like the Martinez fight. We don't really know about the grappling of Aiemann Zahabi, but if there's anyone that's going to test it, it should be Jose Aldo, who is a very well-rounded dude. So mix it with the grappling, mix it up with the kickboxing, mix it with the boxing. I just think mix it up with every aspect of MMA, because I think Jose Aldo's better in every aspect in MMA than Aiemann Zahabi. And for Aiemann Zahabi, the keys to victory is to look to counter Aldo coming in. One thing I will give Aiemann Zahabi credit on, he's a good counter puncher. He showed it against Javid Basharat. He showed it against Archie Leung. He's a good counter puncher. With a pressure guy like Aldo, maybe looking to counter him coming in would be a good shot, a good chance. Keep it at kickboxing range. You are that's what you're known for, kickboxing, and avoid being backed up, because that's when we're going to see Aldo rip to the body, land the combinations, and obviously mixed up with the grappling. Those are the keys to victory. Please, for the love of God, Jose Aldo, win this fight. And please, UFC, don't give Jose Aldo fucking Marcus McGee or Montel Jackson or some other young, hungry prospect. Give him somebody in the top 5. Anyway, then we've got Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot for the flyweight belt. Again, pretty even women MMA fight. I've been looking for Manon Fiorot to get a title fight for a while. Now, this has the keys to be a really good striking matchup. Manon Fiorot has been looking really good with her striking, picking apart every single person she's been against on the feet. She does seem to be a really good kickboxer in the flyweight division, probably the second best right now behind Valentina Shevchenko. And obviously, Valentina Shevchenko, One of the greatest women MMA fighters of all time, known for her elite kickboxing. She's very good on the feet too. So this has the keys to victory, keys to be a really good kickboxing match. But I'm going to be going with Shevchenko to win this one by decision. And I think it's from two things. I think the first reason I'm going with Shevchenko is just that I feel like she's a bit of a better kickboxer than Manon Fiorot. We saw Manon Fiorot against Erin Blanchfield, and there were times in that fight where I was really wondering what's going on with Manon Fiorot striking. She was getting backed up against Blanchfield, and she was, you know, we saw Blanchfield land some shots with the boxing and with the punches in that fight against the cage of Manon Fiorot, and Erin Blanchfield striking is awful. But I also think the wrestling of Valentina Shevchenko, we will see Valentina Shevchenko shoot a takedown in this fight. That was her key to victory against Grasso in the third fight, and it worked. She took her down and controlled her across 25 minutes, and if she's smart, that's what you want to be doing against a kickboxer in Manon Fiorot. So I think Valentina Shevchenko is going to get this one done. She should have won the second fight against Grasso too. She should be 2-1 against Grasso. She's definitely the better wrestler than Manon Fiorot, and I believe that she's the better kickboxer. There is a world where I can see Manon Fiorot picking her apart for 25 minutes, but for that to happen, Valentina Shevchenko must be washed. I'm not sure she's washed just yet. I'm going Shevchenko to win this one by decision. Now, the keys to victory for Valentina Shevchenko, it is to outclass her with the kickboxing, like it is in nearly every single fight, apart from the Grasso fight. Outclass Manon Fiorot with the kickboxing, do the better at striking, and if you are losing on the feet, which is a big if, mix it with the grappling. And it isn't like panic takedowns that he has to shoot. She's definitely the better grappler. So mix it with the grappling, with the striking, like the Grasso trilogy, because that's another whole world where you have where you're better than Manon Fiorot. For Manon Fiorot, pressure Shevchenko. Don't stand in the center and have a technical fight. There's no way that Manon Fiorot's out striking and out techniquing Valentina Shevchenko. Make it scrappy. Back her up against the cage. Make it a bit of a boxing range like Grasso did in the second fight, which worked. And prepare for takedowns. Prepare for Valentina Shevchenko to take the fight to the mat as she did against Grasso, because if she's smart and she uses a fight IQ, which she does have, that is what she's going to be doing. And then for the main event, Belal Muhammad takes on Jack Della Maddalena as he steps in after Shavkat Rakhmonov has been injured. Now, I'm actually really interested to see this fight. This fight is going to go one of two ways. Belal Muhammad out-wrestles Jack Della Maddalena and gets the decision win. Or we see Jack Della Maddalena bully, piece up, and potentially finish Belal Muhammad in this fight with his amazing boxing. But I think the more likely outcome is going to be Belal Muhammad to win this one by decision. I'm going to go with Belal Muhammad to win this one by decision, and it's mainly because of that fight we saw against JDM against Gilbert Burns. Now, JDM has been out the octagon for over a year now, and in his last performance against Burns, he was getting out-wrestled by Gilbert Burns for the entire fight. And Burns, he's got elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, great grappler, not really known for his wrestling, but for pretty much all that fight, we saw Gilbert Burns give JDM massive grappling problems. So even in that fight though, even in the fight with Basil Hafez, who's a can, we saw him take down JDM and outclass JDM. I know there was a bit of a weight cut going on there, but we've seen JDM constantly in the UFC struggle with wrestling, and you'll put him against the best wrestler in the welterweight division, the guy who just broke Leon Edwards, who everyone said was the guy with elite takedown defense, and the guy who's been on the absolute roll with his wrestling. I think a cardio grappler in Belal Muhammad is going to overwhelm JDM in this fight. I'm going to go with Belal Muhammad to win this one by decision. I think he takes down JDM consistently across 25 minutes and gets the win over JDM. Now, I will say this about JDM. He's definitely more dangerous than Leon. If I can see Belal Muhammad getting chinned, it's going to be against somebody like JDM, who's got some of the most elite boxing in the welterweight division. Great combinations, powerful, and we saw him make a massive comeback against Gilbert Burns. But I think the more likely outcome in this fight is simply going to be Belal Muhammad by decision. Out-wrestles JDM across 25 minutes, breaks JDM, because we haven't really seen JDM against any other top contenders apart from Gilbert Burns. And even in that fight with Gilbert Burns, which was over a year ago, he got out-wrestled for a good like 2 rounds in that fight. So I think Belal Muhammad gets this one done by decision and then maybe we see Belal Muhammad get this one done. But I will say this, I do hope that JDM gets this one done. I do think Belal Muhammad's slightly overhated, but I think for the sake of the welterweight title picture and for just some spice in the title picture, JDM getting that belt, that would be great. Imagine Makhachev versus JDM, JDM versus Shavkat, even like JDM versus Brady. I just think it'll be better for the title picture, but I am going to go with Belal Muhammad to win this one across 25 minutes and get the decision win. Keys to victory for Belal Muhammad, I think it is to break him with wrestling. That seems to be Belal Muhammad's game plan in every single one of his fights, and it always seems to work. So break JDM with wrestling, keep him at range with kicks. Belal Muhammad's got pretty good kicks, so when he enters boxing range, take him down. Don't try and box with him like you did against Leon Edwards, because JDM's a much better boxer than Leon, but just do him like you did with Leon. Break him, smother him, drown him, beat him across 25 minutes and overwhelm him with the wrestling. And for JDM, It is. So don't let him back you up. I know that's significantly easier said than done, but if you're going to let Belal Muhammad get you against the cage, it's game over. The guy's going to shoot a takedown, and he's going to get that takedown. Piece him up in boxing range. Don't be like Leon Edwards, where you get overwhelmed by Belal fucking Muhammad's boxing. You're the best boxer in this division. If Belal Muhammad's trying to pressure box him back. You'll have the combinations, and be prepared for constant takedowns. Goes without saying when you're facing Belal Muhammad, but I'm going to go with Belal Muhammad by decision. Now, if we look at my picks, I guess a bit of a parlay. We rank all by confidence, with green being high confidence, yellow being medium confidence, and red being low. My high confidence picks on this card is going to be Belal Muhammad to win this one by decision, Benoit Denis by TKO in the first round, Navajo Sterling to get a decision win over Ivan Erslan, and for Jeung Lee to get the decision win over Daniel Santos. Then if we look at some of my medium confidence picks, I've gone with Valentina Shevchenko by decision, Aldo by decision, Modestas Bukauskas by TKO, Bekzat Almakhan by TKO, and Jasmine Jasudavicious by decision. And my low confidence picks, the one that I'm not very confident in, are going to be Natalia, Silva, Charles Radtke, and Marc Barriault. But those are my picks for UFC 315. Like I said, it's a low average, it's a below average pay-per-view card. I'm still going to tune in. I'm interested in the main event. There are some 50-50 fights on this card, but Canada, they always get done dirty. Those are my picks for UFC 315. Let me know your picks, and if you agree, disagree. Thank you for watching.